Hi guys, I've come to sit down in my front room before I've got to get myself changed. Don't want to go to work today. This is such a lovely day and I'm so comfortable. I'm in a lovely cotton dress and it's lovely and airy and I'm nice and cool. Me and the boys had a fabulous walk this morning, but unfortunately you have to pay the bills somehow, so yes, I've got to go to work. Something I was thinking about, and I haven't talked about this for a long time, is when I was at school, or when I left school, I went straight into the motor trade and I went in as an apprentice and I did a 4-year apprenticeship, and then when I'd finished that, the garage I was working at couldn't keep me on. They hadn't got enough work to keep me on, so I had to move on from there and I went straight to a Datsun garage. And that's the first time I ever came across working on Japanese vehicles. And I couldn't initially get my head around why people were buying these Datsuns, because they used to fall to bits. They suffered badly with rust, and mainly because the UK would put salt on the roads and these cars just fell to bits. But mechanically they were fantastic. They just went on forever and ever. It's just the bodywork fell off them. But these people would run these cars for 3 years, bring them back and chop them in on another Datsun, and they'd got the same thing again. Fantastic cars, incredibly reliable, but the bodywork used to just fall to bits. And it finally dawned on me what it was. It was just the reliability issue. The things were fantastic. They never went wrong. The previous garage I'd worked at as an apprentice, we were having breakdowns all the time. It was a Vauxhall General Motors Bedford dealership, and the vehicles were very unreliable, as were the Fords. Fords were no different. Fords and Vauxhalls were exactly the same. They were really unreliable, always breaking down. Whereas when I went to Datsun's, I can't remember us ever having a broken down car. I was there for 3 years and the things were just incredibly reliable. Even then, okay, the bodywork was awful. They fell to bits, but then so did the Vauxhalls and the Fords. Back in the day, we didn't have the rust treatment we do now. So yes, that was my first look into Japanese vehicles. I went from there, I stayed there for 3 years. I actually got a job back at my first garage where I did my apprenticeship after that. And I went back there for a second stint, and I went back there for 6 years. So I did 4-year apprenticeship, 3 years for Datsuns, and then I went back to Vauxhalls again, and I did 6 years at Vauxhalls. And again, it was the same old thing. The cars were really unreliable. I stayed there until I was headhunted, and I went to a body shop. It's the first time I went to a body shop, guys, and I worked at this body shop. It was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. A very, very satisfying job. You've got these cars coming in with the suspension totally missing off one side, or they might have been rolled. The cars might have been rolled, and you had to put a new body shell on them. But that's where I worked in this body shop. In this body shop for 5 years. Wow, what a fantastic place! That was a fantastic job, and then that is the most satisfying job I've ever had in my whole career. Was working for the body shop. I eventually left there after 5 years, and I went back to the Vauxhall garage again. That was the 3rd time I went back to the same garage. This time I only did a 4-year stint, and then I went to work for Suzuki. Yeah, that was my first full-time job for Suzuki, and I went to work for Suzuki in Bury St Edmunds, and I stayed there for 4 years. And I eventually left there and went to Toyota in Colchester, and I worked there for 5 years, and then I left there and I went to independent garages after that. I went through 3 different independent garages, and eventually I've now gone back to the Suzuki Honda garage in Bury St Edmunds. So I'm doing a second stint then, but I'm a floating technician, so I don't just cover that branch, I cover Bury, Ipswich, Colchester and Cambridge. So it is like working at different garages because I'm constantly moving about. And I've now been at this garage now for 9 years. That's the longest I've ever worked anywhere. But it will see me out. This should see me out. I've got another year and a bit to go after this, and I've finished. I've reached my retirement age. do intend to retire from the motor trade at that time. I don't want to stay in the motor trade after that. What I'd like to do is to get a job elsewhere, dressed as a female, not in overalls. I don't care what it is, I shall find another job. I'll need a job to pay for the house. But yes, so that's my intentions. Anyway, I'm going to sign out now and drink my cup of tea. Okay, bye-bye.